what does it mean? For everybody, it's personal, and they take their own meaning from it. And just that exquisite concentration. That's the other thing. It's just one moment. What's happening in that one moment? That's what we need in our world. Just a quiet moment, and then another, and then another.
Is there a part in your brain that you have to unlock that's like a divide between writing for adults and writing for kids?
Yes. And there's a big sign on it, and it says joy.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Welcome to Journey of the Art, where we discuss the artist, unravel the art, and explore the road between. Hi, and welcome to Journey of the Art. Today, I'm joined by Caroline Adderson to discuss her latest work, A Pond, a Poet, and Three Pests. The book imagines how Old Pond, a haiku written by Japanese poet Matsuo Basho, came to be. It describes the poet's encounter with four animals as they each use their unique skills to vie for his attention at a peaceful pond. A Pond, a Poet, and Three Pests is a brilliant book about thinking and finding quiet moments in a chaotic world. The book is now available from Groundwood Books. And now a little about my guest. Caroline Adderson is an internationally published author of books for all ages. Her writing for children has won the Diamond Willow Award, the Sheila Egoff Award, and the Chocolate Lily Book Award. Her work has also been nominated for the Ruth and Sylvia Schwartz Children's Book Award, Canadian Library Association's Children's Book of the Year, and many Readers' Choice Awards. Internationally, her books have been selected for the White Raven and the USBBY Outstanding International Books list. Caroline lives in Vancouver, and you can find out more about her through the links in the description box or the show notes. Welcome, Caroline.
Hi, Lola. Thanks so much for inviting me.
You are very welcome. I love your energy. It makes me very happy.
You have to have energy to be a children's writer.
Oh my gosh, I need some of that energy because I'm trying to write for these kids. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I think I need some of that joy. You have so much joy. So yeah. Hopefully I'll get some of that before the show comes.
Send it your way.
I need it. I need tons and tons of it. Well, before we get started, here's a reminder to look up Journey of the Art wherever you get your podcasts. So check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms to listen on the go, follow the show, and leave a comment. This really helps to boost our visibility so more folks like you can discover us and join the community. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram, so please follow the show at Journey of the Art Pod. And today I have another ask of you, as always. If you love the show, please don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone about Journey of the Art. All right, Caroline, I want to start us off with something you said about yourself. And that is the fact that you are interested in almost everything except watching television. Why is that?
Oh, Lola, I have to tell you that that's now a lie. It's now a terrible lie. I wrote that a long time ago, and I honestly, I never watched television. I thought it was a big waste of time. But since the pandemic, my husband and I started watching these crime shows and the ones that are series, and you have to go from one to the other. And so this just became this habit. And so now I do it. And so it's terrible. And I don't even think it's a waste of time anymore, because by the end of the day, I'm tired. I really like to put my feet up and watch some terrible show. So I wish I was still that honorable person.
Oh no,
I've
slipped. Still good.
I've slipped.
You're human, just like the rest of us. Because I was like, I need to find out how she's not watching TV.
Yeah,
but
I do watch very little. We watch one episode of one show per night. And
that is a lot of discipline.
Yes, well, that's all I'm interested in. Other than then I need to get up and move around and do things. So I'm a very doer kind of person. I like to do. Yeah.
Well, my other question is about you again.
Mhm.
On your website, you have a really cool page that's called Picture Answers, where you basically answer questions about yourself, but with pictures,
Mhm.
which I think is so fascinating and really, really delightful. And in one of those answers, you said if you could be a tree, you would be a cherry blossom.
Mm.
What makes the cherry blossom so special to you?
Well, it's just there's so many kinds, and it's a very I live in Vancouver. It's a very Vancouver kind of tree. So in the spring, you begin to I get all excited, come January, the first type puts out a very tiny few blossoms. It's
Yes.
not a big showy one the first type. I wish I could remember the names of them. Well, I used to know them. And then you think, oh, there it is. And then the next wave comes the plums. A lot of people don't know the difference between a plum and a cherry. I'll tell you how you know. Is the It has stripes, horizontal stripes on the bark, it's cherry. If it has
Oh,
diagonal lines on the bark, it's a plum. So then we get these waves of plums, but the really divine ones are the cherries that come after that, and then all the different kinds of blossoms and then beautiful leaves. And I just think they're they're funny. The kind that looks like pom poms, and then exquisite. And then there's all kinds of traditions around for example, in Japan, if a cherry blossom falls in your sake, it's good luck. And so
yeah.
in the spring, I always hope I'm not usually walking around drinking sake, but I always hope that maybe when I come home, I'll have some cherry blossoms in my hair, and I'll feel like that's a good sign for the day.
Well, that's fascinating. And I think it's a great introduction to what we're about to talk about. And that's your book, A Pond, a Poet, and Three Pests. And the beauty of this book, much like the beauty of a haiku, is this idea of hidden meaning in simplicity.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on haikus as a tool for reflection?
Oh, I what I love about them is they don't explain. And that's very hard for a writer. Uh, we always want to explain things so that the reader gets the meaning. But through the years as I've been writing, I've come to realize that it's a relationship between the reader and the writer, and you have to give the reader total freedom. You basically say, "This is the story, and I have no control when you're reading it as to how you interpret it. That's for you to take away." So the more enigmatic you are, the more free the interpretations are going to be, the more wide ranging. And so I just love that. Like, what does it mean? What does a haiku mean? What does it mean? For
Mm,
everybody, it's personal, and they take their own meaning from it. And just that exquisite concentration. That's the other thing. It's just one moment. What's
yeah.
happening in that one moment? That's what we need in our world. Just a quiet moment, and then another, and then another.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting because you're almost preempting my next question. And it was my next question is related to this idea of contemplation and concentration, as you just said, and it's about the importance of silence.
Mhm.
So we find Basho and these animals at a peaceful pond where Basho has settled himself to think in silence. And in today's world, there's something constantly wanting to, take steal your attention. How necessary do you think silence is for contemplation?
Oh, definitely. And for me, I can't think if I hear language. So I can't block it out. The way I could block out noise. We were talking earlier about trains, the sound of trains, which doesn't bother me at all. I don't hear sounds. Sounds don't bother me, but language, I focus on it. And so I can't develop my own thoughts and focus on my own thoughts. And if you can't control your mind, you can't control what's happening in your body, you can't control your emotions.
Mhm,
So it's essential. Yes.
mhm. So we've just talked about this importance of silence and solitude, but you layer this with a contrast.
Mhm.
So Basho has come to this pond to find solace, but the animals in the story disrupt the poet's solitude as they they just wanted his attention.
Yes.
And so it seems that although the reader is encouraged to find these quiet moments, they're also reminded that real life is full of people who demand your attention.
Hmm.
And for a kid, this might mean a friend who wants to talk about the latest show or the latest drama in their household. Is this something that you're intentional about? And can
Hmm.
you talk a little bit more about this?
Yes, but I wasn't really thinking about a person. I was thinking about
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, though.
I was, how our attention is constantly sucked by that phone. So they're
Yes.
animals but they're very much like, what are they
Like
called?
the mosquito.
Yeah,
They're very-
definitely. They're like, what are they called? Influencers.
Mm,
They're just look at me, come on, give me the likes, give me this is our world. You had to do that whole thing at the beginning of this podcast. It's just what we have to
yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
we have also to find a way to get away from it. And, I take transit a lot. I rarely see anybody without a phone in their hand.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm reaching for mine. I think, don't do it. Don't do it. Just leave it. Just leave it. You don't need to look at that. Yeah.
So, Caroline, can you walk us back to the beginning of this idea of the book? I know that it's largely inspired by the Japanese poet
Mhm.
Matsuo Basho and his famous poem, The Old Pond. But at what point did you say to yourself, I'm going to write this? And how did it all come together for you?
Yes. Well, I also write for adults, and I during the pandemic I took an online workshop with the wonderful writer John Gould, and he writes microfiction. So they're short stories that are a page and a half. Very, very, very hard to do. And he is so brilliant at it. So he was giving this workshop, and I thought, well, I'd like to learn how to write something that short. Of course, picture books are that short, but it's a different thing. But he talked about being inspired by haiku for that form. And so I went out and I got a book of haiku, and I was just enthralled so much that I copied in. I got a special book and I copied down the ones that I thought were most meaningful to me, and I periodically open them up and just when my head is all busy, I just open up and I read some of these haiku, not only by Basho but other
Mhm.
Zen poets as well. And I also have I had in the past until I got a dog, a meditation practice. So I used to listen to quite a lot of Buddhist meditation podcasts,
Mhm.
and in a number of them they have mentioned Old Pond. It's a very, very favorite poem of many people. So when I started to think about writing something about it, I immediately thought about Old Pond, and then I just saw these characters, and I I just had some fun. I did you really it was so intuitive how it came up. Now and then a book comes to you and it's just kind of a miracle. I
Mm.
can other picture books I've worked on for 10 years and written 52 different versions of the same book. And this one it just kind of came out. And maybe that's because the poem was living inside me all these years. Yeah.
Mm. I love that journey. And it seems to me that the idea of the book came through your senses, and
Mhm.
that's so well shown in the book because you use the senses in the book, and it's in the way that the animals try to distract Basho. So there's the sense of sound and smell and sight, all these senses that we respond to so strongly today. And yet we see the poet Basho incredibly focused,
Mhm.
refusing to be distracted by his senses. What are your thoughts on this? And I know you already touched on it, but I want to give you space to share a bit more about that.
Mhm. Yeah, he is just through his practice, he is so centered, and he's not going to be distracted. But what I love in with the way the book, I mean, it feels funny to talk about what I love about my own book. But I always say to people, the thing about a picture book is because someone else is involved, like 50% of the book is is the pictures,
Yes.
and I can go around and say this is such a beautiful book because Lauren Tamaki is so wonderful. The illustration is so wonderful, but also just the and the inspiration of the actual poem. But
Mm.
what the thing that came out of it for me when I was going through the journey of writing it is, you know, how inspiration is such a different thing than distraction. you
Mm.
know, we're distracted. But if we want to be inspired, we have to open our hearts, and because he hears the frog. It's the same thing. He hears something, but he hears something that's not grasping at him and grabbing at him. He hears something. He hears an animal that is being itself in nature. It's not trying to get his attention. It is being a frog. He
Right.
doesn't, and the frog too doesn't care about all those other creatures. He doesn't even care that the poet's there. He's not wanting anything from Basho. So
Right.
it just so many layers of uh, messages in there that I didn't even intend until after the fact.
Right.
When I have to talk about it or when other people talk to me about it, I think, oh yeah, that's there too. So it's rather like the whole book is rather like a haiku in that there's all these different layers of meaning
Yes.
you can take from it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I said. And that's why I started my conversation with you about the book being exactly like a haiku, in
Mhm.
the sense that it's this idea of a disciplined focus, which is
Mhm.
what we see the poet do. And there's a beautiful line in the poem that uses consonants: flashing fish, lavish lily, megalomaniac mosquito, pensive poet.
Yes. Yeah.
I laughed when I read this part. And I think it's such a brilliant way to familiarize your audience with the literary device of
Mhm.
consonants or alliterations. Do you want to talk about this? Because I'm pretty sure it was intentional.
Oh, yes. Though I wasn't saying I want to introduce alliteration to young readers,
Right,
but
right.
I always like to include in my picture books because a picture book is it's not just a child reading the book. That's quite rare. There's the gatekeeper who is reading the book to the child, and that can be
Hmm.
a parent, a caregiver, a grandparent, a neighbor. It could be anybody. So, but an adult is reading the book. So this is your opportunity to actually use interesting language, and children just love language, and they love
Yeah.
rhythms, and they love alliteration. And so I don't worry too much. Oh, nobody, no 4-year-old child is going to know what a megalomaniac is. That's the chance for the
Hmm.
adult reading the book to burst out laughing and explain what it means. And now the child walks off, that 3 or 4-year-old child knows what a megalomaniac.
Yes.
And in our world today, it's very important that we know that word.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so and then they get this sense of, the playfulness of language and how beautiful it sounds and how it looks on the page. Yeah, I love doing it. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so this is the part of the show where I ask you a few questions to help other writers and get a sense of how your writing brain works.
Yes.
So you've said before, and I also said at the beginning of the show, that you are a writer of all kinds of books. So you write for
Mhm.
kids, but you also write for adults. Is there a part in your brain that you have to unlock? That's like a divide between writing for adults and writing for kids, where you're like, okay, now I want to write for adults and I'm switching into that mood. And now I want to write for kids and I'm switching into that mood.
Mhm.
It does such a door exist in your brain?
Yes. And has a big sign on it, and it says joy.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's the big difference. If it's about joy, it's for children. I mean, I wish I could have more adult stories that were about joy, but for me, I feel my job as a children's writer is to spread joy. Yeah.
Why is joy so important to you?
Well, it's how we get through the day. If it's how we heal ourselves. There's so many terrible things going on in the world. If we can have access to joy and to look at, well, I'll say whenever an adult writer says, and lots of people do, and or I encourage them to, oh, how can you write for kids? I like to write for kids too. I say, oh, I'll tell you all about it. Let's go for lunch. and I will take you to the sunny side of the street. So I always just want people, that's where we have to be, especially when there's so much darkness in the world. It still exists and we have to go there together. And writing for children is one of the ways I do that.
Mm. The other question I wanted to ask you is about your interaction with nature, because it's very evident on your website and even in your writing that nature plays a huge role
Mhm.
in your, I guess, in the way you live your life, and it finds its way into your work.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about this interaction that you have with nature, and perhaps how you're able to connect your love for nature to your work?
Mhm. Well, I'm very fortunate in that I have a lot of access to nature. Here, when I'm at home in Vancouver, I don't live very far from Pacific Spirit Park, which is the most beautiful, wild seeming park. And I go there frequently, and frequently because I have a dog who I have to walk. So I walk at least an hour a day, very often in Pacific Spirit, and in the summer. My in-laws have a cabin on an island on the Sunshine Coast, and then I really up my walking. So there are many, many beautiful hikes. So I'll walk for 2, sometimes 3 hours a day when I'm there, and that is there are still some old growth trees left.
Hmm.
It's just I there's bears, there's cougars, there's every kind of bird. And and that's just when I'm walking. I also kayak there, and the ocean animals. I saw a whale this summer. It just fills me with awe and joy it's where we can be healed, you know. Yeah.
Right. So I love that you just talked about beauty and joy, even while talking about nature. And so I want to come back to this subject of joy. How does a writer find joy? I know you talked about going to a sunny place and
Mhm.
I guess interacting with nature as well, but I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who says, well, how do I find joy? I want to bring that joy into my work. What are
Mhm.
some tips that you can share?
Well, shut off your social media,
Good.
right?
Good
Uh,
point.
yeah, yeah, you have to filter that out. The days some days, I'm in a bad mood and I feel bad and I'll think to myself, "Okay, why am I feeling so grumpy today? What happened?" 9 times out of 10, I saw something on Facebook
Mm,
and it made me jealous or it made me uh, uh, unhappy that what I read there, um, and that's such a source of our unhappiness because it's not about what these people who aren't even in our lives think or feel or what's happening with them. It's only what's happening with us here and
yeah.
now. And if we can go there and be there, then we can find joy. And that's the place you have to be, whether you're writing joyfully or writing dark materials. You have to be alone and quiet to have the focus and concentration to actually write. Yeah. The other way to find joy is find joy in the language. So I think a lot of times, and I know for myself when I first started writing decades ago, you write a sentence. Oh, well, is that a good sentence? Will everybody like it? Will this sentence be published? That pulls you right out of it. So if you instead focus on, write the sentence, read the sentence. Oh, so okay, that doesn't sound right. Let's move these words around. Oh, that sounds better. Oh, now I'll add another sentence. And it's just like playing with the words. That is so joyful, just so joyful.
Right. I like that, playing with the words. So it's finding joy not just in um, the external environment, but also finding joy in the process of writing.
Oh, definitely. Yes, that's all there is. That's all there is. Yeah, because you can write a book and it won't get published, or you write a book and it does get published and nothing happens,
Yeah.
or you write a book and it does really well and then you're so distracted by it you can't write another book. So it's like
Right.
the
Right.
the the only reason I write is the writing. What Everything else is out of my control.
Right. So, Caroline, you've been on the faculty of SFU's Writer Studio,
Hmm.
UBC's Creative Writing Master's Program, and the University of Guelph. You've also taught in Simon Fraser University's Writing and Publishing Program.
Hmm.
What advice would you give a children's book writer who feels stuck in their writing?
The number one thing is remember how it felt to be a child. Many times, beginning children's writers write as an adult and they take a didactic approach or they a protective approach. They feel like I have to look after this child protagonist. I have to make sure they're safe. I have to teach them something. That's the kiss of death. Instead, throw all that out and think, remember how I felt, how it felt to be a little person, how it felt to have to look up at everybody, how it felt to not understand things, how it felt uh, to laugh your head off until you almost wet your pants. That's what you want. This place you want to write from that place, and that's what how you will connect to children. And if you're writing from them to teach them a lesson, well, you should write a nonfiction book. But if
Mm,
you want to write stories, that's the place to begin. How did I feel? It's very healing too. I've taught children's writing workshops to people, and I often get them to remember a childhood incident and write about that. And in the middle of that, I give them the opportunity to change what happened.
mm,
So, so many times, uh, the writer will pick something, they remember it strongly because it wasn't a positive experience. And when I say it doesn't have to end the way it really ended in real life. And many people burst into tears. They write it the way the child in them wanted it to be, and they come out of the workshop feeling like it's resolved and they can let that go. So it's really one of the keys.
yeah, that sounds like therapy to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. Okay, so Caroline, we've come to the last question.
Hmm.
And I'm so unhappy that we've come to the last question because this is such a joyful conversation. I'm like shopping for questions in my head right now. Anyway, we've come to the last question. And this is the thing that I say at the end of the show, stay on the journey of your art. And so I want to ask you, what's your secret to staying on the journey of your art?
It is practice, in the sense of having a practice. So at the beginning of a writer's life, writing life, you have to struggle so much with self-doubt, with distractions. There's 100 reasons not to do it. This is stupid. I'm terrible. Nothing will ever happen to this. Uh, so if you set up a practice, so I teach a course at SFU, and this is one of their first assignments. The first class they have to do this. They have to set up a writing practice, and it has to be a modest one. So don't say 4 hours. Hardly anybody could write for 4 hours. Say 10 minutes. That's all you need to do. 10 minutes, and then try to do it the same time every day. Give yourself 2 days off, like a weekend, but every day at the same time for 10 minutes, write. And soon you have a body memory. Your body will take you to do it. It becomes not the thing you're struggling against, but the thing you want to do. But it will be much, much easier if you develop a practice. And as you go along, you can always write longer, and you will, because before long, 10 minutes is not enough for you. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, you could do 10 minutes. It was modest, but I say to people, like, if you wrote a page a day, I don't really care about the length, but if you think about it, if you wrote a page a day, you would have a whole adult novel at the end of the year.
Yeah.
One page is not very much. You don't have to write a lot. You just have to you just have to get there in a painless way so that it becomes a habit, a practice that you must do. I must do it. If I don't do it, I'm grumpy.
I love that. Get there in a painless way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Caroline, thanks for coming on the show and
Thank you
for
so much.
sharing about your beautiful book. I've had such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful time talking to you today.
Thank you, Lola. Me too. You're a wonderful interviewer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, as I'm sure you did, because I did, please leave a comment, share this episode, and tell someone about the podcast. The link to A Pond, A Poet, and Three Pests is in the show notes or the description box if you're watching on YouTube. We'll see you next time. On the next episode, I'll be chatting with another inspiring artist. But before then, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you think about this show and this episode. Feel free to drop me a note here or send me a DM on Instagram at Journey of the Art Pod. Finally, please subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or follow and rate the show if you're listening elsewhere. Help me connect with other artists who need a dose of inspiration today. Until next time, stay on the journey of your art.